yes, I see you. Get in, get in.
The episode beginning with a parent telling Bojack that they see him, setting up for the misunderstanding at the eulogy.
Your mother's having another one of her episodes.
Also, your mother's having another one of her episodes has a double meaning, since this is our second Beatrice-centric episode.
Last night she went to see a doll's house with a couple of girlfriends, and now she has ideas.
This line is so smart, not only because A Doll's House is a play that subverts traditional marriage roles, it paints the life of a woman who is controlled by her father and her husband, except the character in the play is actually able to leave. So it makes sense why B would come home crying, as she doesn't quite have the courage to do that. It's also genius because the doll could give Beatrice other ideas, as we know from Time's Arrow.
I'm the real hero of the story.
There's also something to be said about the stark differences in performances between Butterscotch and Bojack Horseman, despite the fact that Will Arnett's voice is always recognizable.
And I thought about how rare it is to really get in the groove like that, how most days I can't concentrate because my idiot child is blasting the television.
And this rant, with its tangents, passive-aggressiveness, and tense driving, is so realistic.
And it suddenly dawned on me, hot cock on a rock, she never even picked up the little noise and snot factory.
Butterscotch has such interesting phrasing.
Here I am, being your mother, which I know is giving you all sorts of mixed up ideas about gender. Just remember, if you become a queer later in life, this isn't my fault.
Excellent commentary on outdated beliefs of gender and parental roles.
You know Sunday's my writing day. The whole day's shot, all because of you and that brittle wisp of a woman you made the mistake of making your mother.
It's amazing how it always circles back to being Bojack's fault. Nothing is his own.
No, it's not her fault.
He even goes back on blaming Beatrice. It's all piled on Bojack.
You can't depend on women. You can't depend on anyone.
Bojack definitely internalizes this lesson.
Good for you to know that. And she's a good mother for teaching you that. Thank you!
So realistic, he expects a thanks for this scattered rant of garbage ideals.
So I stopped at a Jack in the Box on the way here, and the girl behind the counter said, "Hiya, are you having an awesome day?" Which is pretty shitty, because it puts the onus on me to disagree with her.
I love how Bojack mirrors his father, blaming the girl for forcing him to disagree with her. So she's having an awesome day and you aren't. Not her problem, she's just working and trying to be nice.
So if I say, I'm doing shitty, then they say, why, what's wrong? And I have to be like, I don't know, all of it.
This is extremely relatable, though. Feeling the need to say that you're fine, because saying you aren't would warrant an unwanted conversation.
And the girl apologizes, again, and she offers me a free churro with my meal. And as I'm leaving, I think, I just got a free churro because my mom died.
The name of the episode coming in so early is shocking, and it prompts you to wonder why this seemingly innocuous story is so important. And it's because he realizes this is all he gets.
Here we go. Let's do this. Here I am, Bojack Horseman, doing a eulogy. Let's go.
Treating the eulogy like it's a stand-up routine to deflect from what he's feeling.
I guess it's a good thing my mom was an organ donor. What happened to the organ?
I love how much character the organist is given. Such a fun gag in this really depressing episode, and they have 0 lines.
And one time she smoked an entire cigarette in one long inhale. I watched her do it.
Referencing this moment from Time's Arrow.
Okay, well, that's my time. You've been great. Tip your waitress. No, I'm just kidding around. There's no waitress. But seriously, that's all I have to say about my mother.
And I love that he almost just finishes here, even though we have the whole episode to go. Nice little fake out before you realize that this is the entire episode.
Knock once if you're proud of me.
He's playing it for laughs, but this small ask and pause is really chilling.
Hey, Mom, knock once if you think I should shut up.
He almost looks like he wants her to. That'd give her another chance to see him, truly.
She wanted an open casket, but, she's dead now, so who cares what she wanted? No, that sounds bad.
The small whispers whenever he says anything risque are really great, not only for humor, but atmosphere as well.
It looked like this.
Very grotesque and detailed expression. Bojack does not read this room well. Obviously.
For months, I saved up for this jacket. But when I finally had enough, I went to the store and it was gone. That's the good that comes from wanting things. But then, on the day of the talent show, she had bought me the jacket. And even though she didn't know how to say it, I knew this meant that she loved me. It's not true. I stole it from an episode of Maude.
I love how he tells this story. The twist hits really hard, and the fondness he expresses shows how badly he wishes for it to be true.
And in TV, flawed characters are constantly showing people they care with these surprising grand gestures. But in real life, the big gesture isn't enough.
This is such an important line. We see him make this mistake and struggle to be consistent over and over.
You can't just screw everything up and then take a boat out in the ocean to save your best friend.
I love how it references specifically these good moments from Bojack and shows how fleeting they are. Plus, I love how it relates back to the lesson we learned at the end of season 2. You have to do it every day. That is the hard part.
Even now, I find myself waiting. Hey, Mom, knock once if you love me and care about me and want me to know that I made your life a little bit brighter.
The pause actually physically hurts me.
She went clawing and fighting and thrashing. Hence the face.
Beatrice clinging to life is actually tragic. She was never satisfied with what she did, and when she was younger wanted such a different path for herself, and she wanted so badly to make her life mean something, and she never really got that chance.
Where she looked in my direction and said, I see you. I see you.
I like how he pronounces it the second time. It's probably more how she actually said it, where it sounds like 3 separate letters in an acronym rather than an actual phrase.
It's a weird thing to feel at 54 years old that for the first time in your life, your mother sees you.
It's so sad knowing that this simple act would have solved so many of Bojack's issues.
I was prepared for more cruelty.
But I love that even he finds it out of character for her and senses that it isn't what he thinks it is.
Too tall to be an effective Lindy Hopper.
Too tall to be an effective Lindy Hopper is such an insane insult. Did she try to teach him the Lindy Hop? I mean, what was the context there?
But maybe I'm giving her too much credit. Maybe it was an I see you like, I see you.
I love how much Bojack obviously cares about this, evidenced by how many ways he finds to interpret it.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show called Horsing Around.
Huh. That phrase sounds familiar.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show.
In all the shots of the horse, you can see a paper coffee cup on the kitchen counter. Was that because the show was making a statement about the fluctuant subjectivity of memory?
I have a feeling this line was written about some things in this show. We love to read too far into it, me being number 1 on that list.
If I'm being honest, she wasn't really looking at me. She was looking just past me. There was nobody else in the room.
I love the numerous clues they give you to realize that she wasn't really saying what we hope.
Not saying, huh? Staying mum?
Staying mum.
My dad died about 10 years ago of injuries he sustained during a duel. When your father dies, you ask yourself a lot of questions. Questions like, wait, did you say he died in a duel?
The reaction to this death is so hilarious. And realistic.
Finally, I guess this one newspaper thought he was pretty hilarious because they ran a review and tore him to shreds. So my father, ever the proud Mary, decided he would not stand for this besmirchment of his honor.
It's interesting because the viewer can probably understand what this book means to Butterscotch more than Bojack. Of course he couldn't handle a negative review. He worked on this his entire life. Plus he views himself as a man's man, aka the people with the most fragile egos.
But in the middle of the 10 paces, Dad turned to ask the guy if he'd actually read the book and what he thought. But not looking where he was going, tripped over an exposed root and bashed his head on a rock.
And it's so fitting that his death is so clown-like, anti-masculine, and not at all honorable. Just like Butterscotch himself. The appearance might have been, but the act itself never was.
At his funeral, she said, "My husband is dead, and everything is worse now." My husband is dead, and everything is worse now.
Repeating this line twice to increase its effect and impact. This is also a fascinating comment to hear from Beatrice, who hated her husband so much. I do think she really meant it, and not in the way Bojack describes. I believe that, while she hated her husband, this sham marriage was one of the only things she had to show for her life. She was always hoping it would improve, and she would attain happiness and feel fulfilled. But it never did, and when he died, she realized it never would. Bringing this feeling into the show and having Bojack come to understand it as he processes his own grief is straight up genius.
What's the difference between a first-year lit major and my mother? One is decently red, and the other is a huge bitch.
Great curveball joke. For those who didn't get it, the pattern should have ended with, and the other is recently dead.
She used to put on these shows with her supper club in the living room, and she used to make me sing the Lollipop song.
The embarrassment in the voice acting and facial expressions really helps sell this memory. Plus, this is a callback to season 1.
And magic acts and ethnically insensitive vaudeville routines.
Ethnically insensitive vaudeville routines. The writers never fail to call out the terrible history of American theater.
And she did this incredible number. It was so beautiful and sad.
I love the genuine admiration from Bojack here for his mother's dancing. This was the only time he could see her vulnerable, gentle, and honestly human.
He'd linger in the doorway, scotch in hand, and watch in awe.
And the detail that Butterscotch came to watch is a really wonderful touch, as this likely reminds him of the Beatrice that he fell for. Smart use of space. I love the blocking for this entire eulogy. They just don't have Bojack stand still, and that is a brilliant choice.
In which you suddenly remember you can swim.
This is how you do visual storytelling. This is how you immerse your viewer in a memory and show the emotion felt by the person who's reminiscing and the general mood of the scene. The playful organ music transitioning into the graceful orchestra, tasteful sound design, lighting, and slow spin around the room all give this the perfect, dreamy, elegant feel that they definitely wanted out of it.
Me and my mom and my dad, as screwed up as we all were, we did understand each other.
And it was always interesting to me that while they hated each other, their bitterness gave them understanding of one another.
A stunt went bad and I fell off a building. I'm an actor. I do my own stunts.
His need to throw this in for the clout.
I'm supposed to take 2 of these every morning, but my days were so screwed up because of the shooting schedule.
Smart hints about where this will take him. Him not being judicious about where he takes them. The fact that he says he's supposed to take 2 and then 3 fall into his hand. It's all very alarming and perfectly subtle. And then he washes it all down with alcohol. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is where most viewers were like, oh balls, I think I know where this goes.
The last thing that my stupid brain could come up with before I died, won't they be sorry?
Bojack thinking of his own mortality and what he will leave behind due to his mother.
I used to be on this TV show called Horsing Around. Seriously though, hold your applause. Well held.
I love how he still expects them to applaud. This dude's ego is off the charts.
It was written by my friend Herb Kazaz, who's also dead now, and it starred this little girl named Sarah Lynn.
Bojack realizing how many people around him have passed away is absolutely heartbreaking, especially since Sarah Lynn was the little girl from the show. Who expected her to go before Bojack?
And when the mom says she's moving to California, Olivia decides to go with her. But of course, because it's a TV show, she's not gone for good. Olivia's mother had a relapse and had to go back to rehab. You can't have happy endings in sitcoms, not really, because if everyone's happy, the show would be over. And above all else, the show has to keep going.
The show getting in the way of a happy ending, like how Bojack sees the show as ruining his life and putting him on the path he's on right now.
You never get a happy ending, because there's always more show.
Life is a never-ending show, my friend, so don't stop dancing.
My mom would hate it.
I love his little chuckle here. Again, almost yearning for his mom's criticism.
All I know is she wanted an open casket, and her idiot son couldn't even do that right.
Blaming himself, since his mom isn't there to do it.
But I keep going back to that moment in the ICU when she looked at me and, I see you.
The slow zoom and silence really help portray the gravity of this realization in Bojack's eyes. You can see how this realization affects him, and the sorrow turning to anger. Great facial animation.
Is when that stranger behind the counter gave me that free churro. That small act of kindness showed more compassion than my mother gave me her entire goddamn life.
And relating this need for any sort of care or kindness from the people you actually are close to the free churro from the stranger is just genius writing and conveys the feeling in an extremely relatable and understandable way.
I'm your son. All I had was you.
Will Arnett. My God, such good voice acting.
I have this friend, and right around when I first met her, her dad died. She told me that she didn't understand why she was still upset, because she never even liked her father.
Connecting themes to Live Fast, Diane Nguyen, an episode in season 1.
You know what it's like? It's like that show Becker. I watched the entire run of that show, hoping that it would get better, and it never did.
What a beautifully modern simile for losing someone close but cruel. Wanting them to be better. Wanting your relationship to be better, and the tragedy of never getting that opportunity.
My mother is dead, and everything is worse now.
Bojack figuring out what Beatrice must have felt at his father's funeral.
But I guess it's good to know. It's good to know that there is nobody looking out for me.
Bojack learning the same thing his father learned when he had to make his own sandwich. Beatrice's neglect taught him to keep to himself and push others away. He even still remarks that it's good.
And I have no idea what she wanted. Unless she just wanted what we all want. To be seen.
Realizing the similarities in their struggles and understanding that she might want the same as him and choosing to give her that. I love this cut. First of all, it's almost like taking a breath after watching Bojack stand at the podium and facing this wall all episode. But also, of course, It is an absolute gut punch of a reveal and is also quite hilarious. A lot of people don't like this and find it to be a pointless gag at the end of a really meaningful episode, but I think it says a lot about what this eulogy and realization actually means for him. It's not like this eulogy was for anyone besides Bojack. It was him processing his own emotions relating to his mother's passing, so it doesn't matter that it wasn't actually her funeral. Plus, it's just funny that Bojack is so self-involved, he didn't even notice he was talking to a group of lizards.
Is this funeral parlor B?
And the organ arrangement of back in the 90s. Perfect button to a perfect episode. If you'd like to see more content from us and get these videos early, you can go to patreon.com/PosiTVty. That's PosiTVty. Support us there for more content and early content, and it's a great way to help out the channel. Thank you so much for watching.